Perfect. All right, we are live now. Let's wait for it to load on Twitter here. There we are. We are good to go. We'll let people in, join. All right, people are joining now. All right, I think we can get into this. What is going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Expected Bets 4. We have a playoff special today with 3 games on the slate. Before we get into those games, let's bring in the rest of the crew. Betsky, how we doing there?
Yeah, doing good. We already had a 100-degree day, so it's begun.
Insane.
But I'm seeing Neil Young on Saturday, and I cannot wait.
Sounds like a blast.
Bucket list artist, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be cool. And the temperature's getting better. It's only going to be like 87 as a high, so
should be nice. At all.
Yeah,
I saw you post today the Yotes of touchdown in Utah. That had to be a sad moment for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing that. Got to go to the last game, which was incredible. We talked a little bit about it on the last show, but it's cool seeing all the fans cheering. I mean, that area of that state is just gorgeous in SLC. So seeing all like the snow-capped mountain backdrop and whatnot, and they're all in hoodies, and it's absolutely short weather here, and it's interesting. I just watched another clip of them like checking out the locker room and the arena, and it's like, oh yeah, they haven't had this in a while.
Permanent locker room, yeah. You forget about that. Before we go to Franco here, what's your hope of the team name here?
Salt Lake City Sacks.
The Soakers, something along those lines. Get real.
No,
real
for the ones that are proposed, I have a feeling it's going to be Yeti or Yetis. I was thinking,
it's not my favorite.
It's not my favorite. I've seen if you make the logo kind of cool and like kind of how the Kraken did it, where it's like not actually a Kraken, it's an S that looks like a tentacle and has an eye. Yeah. If you can make it work where the Yeti is like in it but not the thing, I think
it's
it would
almost
be
like
kind
an
of
NHL
cool.
creative team logo.
It is.
Just be like
if
a Yeti.
It's an actual like furry monster.
Yeah.
But again, if it's a mountain range and there's like a cave that has a mouth and there's eyes, like kind of how the Wild do their logo. Then I think it could be all right. But the major, company called Yeti could be a huge issue too.
It's true. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you don't want like a Yeti on like a mountaintop holding a hockey stick. You're like, come on, like we can do better than this of some sort. Yeah.
So what about too? Like the Avalanche used to have like that
the big foot.
Yeah, on their jerseys. I don't think they really have that anymore, but still that kind of steals that from them as well.
Totally. So I've seen Mammoth lately, which is kind of cool. But in my opinion, then it should be the Mammoths, and then you don't have to be like up front and center furry elephant logo. It could be like mountains are mammoth. You have different like options there. I mean, even just like the Utah Ice sounds kind of cool, but
I didn't hate Hockey Club.
I am one of the few that don't hate it, but I get that it needs to be its own like thing, and like brand and look and whatnot. My buddy is obsessed with the Los Angeles Football Club, and the first time I heard it, I thought it was pretty silly, and then it kind of just works eventually.
It's a big thing in soccer.
Yeah,
totally. And I feel like those names can kind of wear out their welcome too. But
with all the Utah talk here, sorry, Franco, we'll get to you here. What's going on?
Just hanging out, man. Playoffs have been awesome. Great start. A little up and down, but I think I'm starting to find a little bit of a rhythm. I don't know about you guys. How you? Yeah. I know Gates. You've been crushing, man.
We've had a good start to the postseason for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's been fun though. I think this is when stuff starts getting interesting though. Once we start flipping the series to the away teams, coming back home. Now's when you gotta kind of start shifting your perspective. You can't get too set in your ways after a couple of games. So it'll be cool to see the adjustments.
Yeah, and the big thing to remember while betting in the playoffs, in hockey in particular, it's really series by series. So you may love, like a player may hit his point prop or shots prop every game in the first series or all but one game and of like a 7-game series. And then round 2 hits and a whole different line finds their way on the ice or finds their groove. Or so don't get married to any of the props you love in round 1. That is kind of my best advice I can give. But also obviously there's some wagons that just keep on rolling too, like Bouchard last year. So just be weary of it. Like, yeah, don't worry if you like, I mean, be cautious of it as we switch from rounds and waivers home too. But, yeah, Bouchard, man.
I would agree. All right. With all that said here, let's get into the first matchup of the night here. Hang on, let me pull it up. You got Boston, Toronto. So Toronto took game 2 of this series, 3-2. Austin Matthews was involved in each of those goals. Game 1, Boston kind of dominated. But you look at the shots here, and that's the one thing that kind of stood out most to me is the Leafs have outshot the Bruins in both of these first 2 games. Matthews, again, has been fantastic. I'll start with you here, Betsky. What's kind of your script here for game 3, Nylander, what is going on with that? Because we have no idea where he is. Like, he was skating in practice, and kind of a non-contact. So
yeah,
it's very weird what's going on in the Leafs locker room right now, it feels like.
I agree. And I do think if Nylander comes back, I feel like Matthews will probably shoot a little less. I am on his shots 100%. Today. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's undeniable if Nylander's out. Like, I'm not going to back off of Matthews necessarily right now until that's confirmed. And, this is a desperate kind of win moment at home. So even if Nylander's back tonight, I still like Matthews' shots. That's more of a parlay piece. If he's out, I will continue to ride it. If he comes back tonight and, Matthews misses, or maybe he just gets there, I'll be a little bit more cautious game 4.
Yeah.
I love Matthews' line mates tonight if you want plus money value, though. So Domi looks really good for a point, and Bertuzzi. Domi's shots look all right. His attempts kind of went down last game. And Bertuzzi's shots look pretty fun as well. So I think those are kind of nice, like, sneaky plays. Bertuzzi's kind of streaky, I've noticed. He had a point last game. He kind of does these in 2s, but if you remember last year when he was the Boston Bruins in the playoffs, he was one of the, like, probably all of our favorite props to play in that first series.
Plus money until really the second series every night.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't make it to the second series either.
Yeah, true.
But, all 7 games, all 7 games he was, though. This was a guy who had like 2 to 3 points a game and stayed plus money until the very last game. And this is why Toronto brought him in, to play these big moments, to be a gritty guy. He's playing against the team that he was on for, just a blip of time. But back at home, I really like kind of that look. Another Maple Leaf look that I absolutely love that I don't see here, and I'll let Franco kind of take over for Boston then, is Morgan Riley assist. If you go back to his playoff charts, it's ridiculous. And even over his last 10 games, I think he missed his last 2 games, but then it had 8 assists in a row. And let me pull up his playoff chart right now too. But his assist is anywhere from plus money on certain books to around like minus 115 on FanDuel, I believe. Against Boston, he has 5 assists in 6 games, hitting in 4 of those. Oops, I'm sorry. I have a home filter on top of that. He has hit in 6 of his last 10 games with an assist, 9 of his last 10 at home. In the playoffs last season, that's a little bit worse. He only had 5 out of 13 in the playoff. Oops, that's 2 years ago. No, I'm sorry. That was last year. But again, I'm going to ride that home look for him. I like his head-to-head splits too. So I think that's a nice little play here. And he's been a little bit quiet the first 2 games as far as his offensive output. So I think he's probably ready to kind of get on the scoreboard. This is not a guy who usually misses more than 3 or so games in a row.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. Franco, obviously, Swayman started game 1 here. Allmark started game 2. Feels like there's controversy brewing again. If the Bruins go back to Allmark in game 4 here, when Swayman's kind of been the better goalie, especially in game 1, he was phenomenal. What are your kind of plays here and thoughts on this series so far?
I wouldn't say Allmark was bad though, right?
He wasn't terrible. No.
I just feel like Boston kind of got outplayed in that game. It felt like kind of from like the second period on, or midway through the second, I guess, on. I feel like that's what it really came down to, and Boston was pretty quiet really from that point on. They couldn't really do much, so I don't blame that loss on Allmark, but at the same time, it is one of those things where it's like, okay, this guy's not getting it done. It's the problem with having a 2-goalie system like this, right? There's always going to be controversy if anything goes wrong at all.
Exactly.
If you have your guy, like, no matter what, hey, we're starting this guy. I don't care. Like Georgiev the other day, right? He was getting bashed everywhere, left and right you can find, and only ends up giving up 2 goals against Winnipeg somehow, even though they were relatively early in the game too. I mean, I don't think anybody had Georgiev letting up under 2.5 goals yesterday. Let's put it that way.
No one played his saves yesterday for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so that looked like a fantastic parlay piece yesterday. It was like -160 for over 2.5 goals allowed. So just something to consider. I mean, I think goalies can bounce back a lot too in these series, so that's another thing to think about. But as far as Swayman goes tonight, I really like his save prop. Toronto, like you already touched on, has been shooting a ton this series, and I think it's I don't see why it would stop in this game of all games. Maybe it comes back to Boston and we see like a little bit of a downturn depending on how the series is going into that point. But I mean, they have to be fired up. I could see a 12-13 shot first period out of Toronto just because they have to, right? Like this is a game that I know nothing's must win this early in the series, but like for Toronto, it's got to feel like a must win game at this point, right? You don't want to go down 2-1 at home and you start to have those doubts. You don't know if Nylander's coming back. I think he's not playing this game. They have an extra day of rest in between, so I believe their next game's Saturday, right? So I think they're going to let him rest one more day. It just makes more sense, and then he comes back. I think regardless, this series is going to be 2-2 when we're coming back to Boston. So I kind of posted a joke poll earlier that like either Toronto's going to win this game and then get Nylander back on Saturday and lose, or they will lose this or win this game and then everybody will be excited and then they'll put up a dud when Nylander returns on Saturday. It's kind of like that lose-lose scenario for just Toronto fans in general, where like they can never get too high on this team because it's just inevitably that something wrong will happen. Yep. So, but as far as the sides go, I've kind of been back and forth on it all day. I kind of lean Boston here, but
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, the price is pretty good. I think they kind of bounce back. Like I said, they didn't really play too well after midway through that second period on. So you think there'd be a little bit more emphasis on it, but I could see Toronto coming out really hot, at least to start this game too. Kind of feeling the Matthews props. I like that shot prop. I kind of want to bet his goal prop. I just don't love the value on it. Like,
I know, same.
Like playoff hockey is not regular season hockey where he's playing against the Sharks and you're betting -120 on his goal prop. You know, it's like he's playing against the Bruins. The Bruins are going to come out. They're going to want to play better this game. It's just -120 is a hard pill to swallow for me on a goal scorer prop. So one thing I was considering, if you do like Boston and you do like the Matthews to score angle, you can parlay them, and then that gives you that like really nice plus money. It's like plus 350 because you're going like contrarian. So
and you can always do shots and goal too on some books.
Yeah, that might not be a bad, like do a 4-shot and a goal, something like that. But yeah, I mean, I want more value out of it, but it feels like he looked great that last game.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's going to be feeling confident coming into this one. So I kind of want to be involved with him in some kind of way. That's kind of how I'm feeling.
And Matthews is really the last of the 3-4 superstars they have on offense that hasn't shown up in the playoffs or has been kind of criticized the most in the playoffs. Last year, Nylander was kind of the big guy that stepped up. Tavares is always pretty good. I think the year before that was kind of the Marner year. He was really the guy who stepped up. And then it was kind of the talk of, okay, next year we need all 3 of them going. But it was really only like Nylander. This year, right now, it seems like it's Matthews' time to shine. So I kind of want to ride that if you want to kind of dig into that type of history with Toronto in the playoffs.
I mean, you look at Marner this year, 0 points the first 2 games.
Yep.
On that second line with Tavares, he really has not made an impact at all. There's that clip going around too of him kind of going into the corner as well that made his way around hockey Twitter of him just avoiding all contact, which wasn't a good look. Yeah, my lone play in here, I'm kind of staying off the sides here. This is one of the trickier series that I've kind of encountered, along with Nashville, Vancouver. Those have kind of been my 2 series where I've really struggled to pick a side or a total in that. So I have Matthews over 4.5 plus Max Domi 1.5, and you can parlay that together for plus 114 or plus 144, on DraftKings. So that's kind of be my look here. I think Toronto just continues to shoot the puck here, try to kind of disrupt Swayman here, and really get kind of upset Boston here with this goaltender situation. I think if they can rattle Swayman tonight here, it really kind of turns the tide in this series for sure.
Yeah, history repeats itself, huh?
Exactly.
Well, and the thing too, this is like the perfect situation, right? You sit back, you don't take a side here. Whoever wins this game, you bet the opposite.
You back the other side, game 4 completely.
It's the easiest bet, and instead of trying to split it today, you just let it ride. Take a couple props whoever you like, and I feel like there's plenty of options either way. I like the Bertuzzi call. Zacha looks good. There's plenty of value to be found. So just take your favorite guy and enjoy.
I mean, even if you can handle the juice, Marchand point at minus 140, minus 145 is nearly bettable. And the guy has a point in like 81% of playoff games in his entire career. And he's been in 153 playoff games.
Hitting 10 and 12 versus Toronto too.
Yep.
He's so awesome.
If you don't mind just making a little bit of incremental money that way, or use him as a parlay piece.
Any thoughts on Pastrnak here? Because he hasn't really been kind of a major impact, I'd say. He's missed his shots on goal mark in the first 2 games. He's at 3.5 tonight for a decent price, I believe. So any consideration in playing him, or are you kind of just holding off?
I'm laying off. Last time they dropped him to 3.5, I took the bait, and actually I think I may have avoided it that game. I was very close to taking the bait, and he didn't hit it. And this is a guy who's at 4.5 almost the entire season. This isn't a guy that kind of shifts around. Matthews, McKinnon are 2 other guys that are like set at 4.5 whenever Pasta gets dropped, and he's a little bit streakier than some of those other 2 names I kind of talked about, who kind of are a little bit more random, and McKinnon's like a home dog. But it always seems like the books know something about Pasta when they drop him to 3.5, because it just feels so much like bait. And considering he hasn't been hot yet anyways, it really worries me.
Yeah, I'm going through his attempts right now here. Last game he had 6, and the game before he had 7, recorded 3 in both those. So, I mean, sometimes you see his attempts too of the 10, like 11 mark too, where he's up there. And
so many shots though, man.
So many shots. And I think we took him for the accuracy shooting this year in the All-Star game, which should have been a red flag as well. All right. Any other thoughts on Toronto Boston tonight?
No, I just want this to be a good game again. I don't want, a Toronto blowout would be kind of fun, but I just want this turning into a 7-game series is.
It feels inevitable.
It feels so inevitable.
It feels so inevitable. Yeah.
One more thing I would say too. I mean, I wouldn't mind sprinkling the draw here. This kind of feels like I honestly feel like game 3 or 4 is going to go to overtime. So maybe that's what I'll do. I'll just say, screw it. I'm going to bet in both games, and hopefully I hit one of the 2. I'm sure it's probably pretty nice.
plus 350 range, usually what kind of they're at. And yeah, I mean, we had our first overtime game last night, which is crazy that it's taken 3-4 nights to get one in OT.
They're gonna start rolling in. I actually cashed on that one though, so that was pretty nice.
Yeah,
plus 370 yesterday.
Yeah,
that's a great hit for sure.
Real quick question for the chat: has anybody found a book that does overtime stats? I can't tell if ESPN Bet does or not, and I unfortunately played the wrong game. I was kind of hoping the Winnipeg game was going to go overtime, but haven't been able to completely figure out what their rules are for 60-minute betting. I know DK and FD are off or on the 60-minute betting side, but if you've found out if ESPN honors it overtime or not, I'd love to know.
For shots though, it's full game on DK at least. They have the market for 60 minutes. But
FanDuel is the only one that's doing full 60-minute with the bullshit.
With everything. Okay, cool.
No. Honestly, guys, like if you are watching this right now, there is no reason you should be betting anything on FanDuel for player prop with the shots and the goaltending market, unless you're betting an under, of course. But the goaltending under saves is actually like something I've really been tempted to do. I've been so just scared of it, but you're protected from the overtime, right? So, but they're juicing it down a save, so you got to kind of be careful there. But yeah, I mean, any of these games can go to overtime, so there's always that chance that you can get that extra shot. Or hell, a guy has one shot going into the third period, or at the end of the third period, you need 3. Like, if you get overtime, this game could go a while. So you're never dead if that's the case. Same for point props. So there's absolutely no reason to be betting them on FanDuel.
Yeah,
did DK do overtime last season?
They've never done 60 minutes for their stuff.
Okay,
DK.
Cool. Well, I guess last season you couldn't same game parlay shots, and now you can.
I will bring up too, though. The good thing about FanDuel is they have this prop I was looking at the other day: game to reach overtime and the goal scorer. So if you want to get really fun and silly, there's some pretty good value. I mean, just for that Boston game, Matthews to score the game winner in overtime is 3,200. So that's and that's the
low end of the spectrum.
Yeah. If you're looking at like a guy, a fourth liner or some, a scrappy guy type of guy, like Pat Maroon is 15,000, so
jeez.
And I mean, that's the type of player that scores in overtime in the playoffs, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you're Verhaeghe, he just always does. I don't know why I didn't bet that yesterday, but yeah.
All right, the next game up for tonight, which is taking place at 9:30 tonight, we have Vegas-Dallas game 2 here. Vegas took game 1 4-3, and I still fucking hate this team here. Mark Stone returns from an injury, scores in game 1. Noah Hannafin puts up 2 assists. Thomas Hertl gets on the board. Eichel has a few as well, and it looks like, and they looked pretty good. They were outshot 15-29, which is crazy to begin with, too. Ottinger really struggled in that first game. Only had, 12 saves? Which is going to be an issue here. So I'll start with you here, Franco. Do you think Ottinger kind of returns to form tonight, or what's your script for game 2 between Vegas and Dallas?
Well, I've already seen a few people mention the what if this is playoff Ottinger, that argument, right? It's not the one we saw in Calgary a few years ago. It's this guy, and maybe that's the case. I don't know. I think he's still young, and there's the book's not closed on him yet of what he really is going to be.
Still young. He's like 25.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to write him off as being bad, and I don't want to guarantee that he's going to bounce back this game. He should, in theory, and I think that the team in front of him is going to. I mean, they already played better. I don't even want to say play better in front of them. They blocked a ton of shots and only allowed, what was it? You said 15 shots or whatever?
15 shots, yeah.
I mean, that's insane. I don't care what type of game it is. 15 shots, that's like, feels like a Ducks game in the middle of the season or something, right? Like you're playing against the Ducks, right? 15
Ducks Columbus, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the problem is that there's no value on Dallas tonight, right? Minus 162 on the money line. I don't understand that price at all. almost want to take Vegas just because of the price, and I don't want to root for Vegas at all in this series. Like I have Dallas futures, and I think this season Dallas has shown a great penchant to come back and bounce back and show that resiliency. So I think we're going to see that. I think Dallas does win this game. I'm toying with the idea of just saying screw it and taking the puck line and just being like, all right, you're not going to give me value. I'll just take it this way. Maybe doing reg or something. I don't know. I got to find some way. I want to be on Dallas's side because I do think this is a pretty critical game for them to win, obviously.
It's a must win at this point. You can't go down.
You can't
2-0 to
Vegas.
Yeah, because even if you split in Vegas, then you're coming back down 3-1.
Yeah. If Dallas loses tonight, yeah.
But I mean, like, I can't, that price is ridiculous. I can't believe it. I thought if anything, we'd be seeing like -130 or something just because of the way that game went. But yeah, I don't know. Player prop wise, I kind of want to go like, I kind of went back hints. I know he didn't really show up. It seemed like he had some opportunities, but I mean, you look at the stat line, he didn't even record a shot. So, he's like been that type of guy though. He's been very good in the playoffs for them historically. Pavelski as well. So I really want that line. Like if I'm looking at the Dallas side, I want that line to be the catalyst for it. I know we've been high on the Johnston and Ben and Stankoven line has been awesome because they're young and exciting, but playoffs that's the time for this line to show up and do their thing. And Pavelski's been a playoff performer in the past. So, yeah, I mean, that's where I really want to look. I don't mind the block shots angles on both sides. Tanev and McNabb both look great. I can't believe the shift in price for McNabb though. I hesitated on it was like +130 the first game, and now it's -145. I don't think you would ever see that type of change in a line. It's insane. Like, I get it, but I don't know. The reason I hesitated initially was because of the addition of Hannafin pushed him to second penalty kill unit. So he hasn't been getting as much ice time as he was earlier in the year. So, you know, those splits and the historic, you know, numbers against Dallas during the regular season don't really play into that. So that's just something to consider. Alec Martinez is back. I don't know how much ice time he's going to get tonight. He would be a candidate as well if they would release his line, but I don't know if we're going to get it. But yeah, I think a ton of block shots. I think I feel like we see goals here too. I think this is an over. I think Dallas, like in my mind, has to score is going to have to come out and try to score 5 goals to try to negate any kind of nonsense if Ottinger isn't on again. I could see like a 5-4, 5-3 type game.
Yeah, FanDuel has the total at 5.5 here, -130 to the over here. I had it kind of penciled in to start, but I didn't play it just based on the fact that maybe Ottinger has a rebound game here, or Dallas does try to kind of tighten things up defensively in front of him. So
yeah, but I don't know. Dallas can put 5 on Logan Thompson.
Easy,
not playing.
Easy. Yeah. I completely agree here, and I may add the total kind of as we get closer to puck drop, but we'll see here. Betsky, what are you looking at for this game?
Yeah, I definitely leaned it over here. Eichel assist is plus money, and I mean the value on it's just nuts. Last year in the playoffs, he was primarily a playmaker. He has a point, I think it is in 78% of the playoff games he's played, which is only like 23. But out of those games, he has assists in 65% of it, and he has like 13 assists in those games, like total. It's not the perception you have of Eichel when it comes playoff time. And this, I mean, he had 2 assists last game. If he keeps this up, this is maybe how coaching pivots the way he plays. Because again, if you watched him closely last year, he spent a lot of time shutting down top opponents. And again, that Edmonton game, I really thought he was going to be much louder in the Conn Smythe conversation, even with the way Marcia Schultz was playing. Just because I don't think they would have gotten past Edmonton without him because the way he handled McDavid and Draisaitl. And if he's going to do the same thing again, he's going to be more of a playmaker. He's not going to be driving the net as hard. He's going to be making sure that he is not allowing as many breakaways. And he's going to be, I mean, he was all over McDavid last year. And if he's going to be shadowing people, he's not going to have the time and space to be shooting and scoring. You could even see that from his shots last night or 2 nights ago. Give me his assists at plus money. I've seen it anywhere from plus 130 to plus 115. So if we get a bad Ottinger performance again too, I mean,
yeah,
it's too good for me to pass up, and I'll keep on riding it.
No, that's certainly a good look here too. Yeah, you mentioned just his transition from when he was on the Sabres in terms of not playing any defense and kind of just being extremely one-way forward of just pushing the pace, just offense to how he's played for Vegas has certainly been an interesting watch for sure. And you're right, he's just been asked to do different things, and I think that kind of leans itself more towards the playmaking side of things here.
Yep. I hope everybody was able to cash out that Mark Stone prop point last time because it was plus.
I'm
money.
an idiot for not taking it. I saw that. I had it written up, and I just didn't play it. I'm like, of course it fucking hits.
Because it's minus 154 today.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It was
not on DraftKings though, man. Minus 120. Like that's pretty damn valuable.
Jeez,
yeah, I was
FanDuel just shows the cards so much.
Yeah, I mean, I was while you're talking, I was looking at that. And I'm like, I think I'm betting that. I mean, regardless of where I'm at on the sides here, that just feels pretty free.
And the hurdle props too. I mean, his playoff history is pretty good. It ain't necessarily like Machard good, but he's been around the block. His shots have been all right. That's a nice parlay piece too. Jason Robertson being right at a bettable number is insane to me. I'm trying to find this one because it was really nice 2 nights ago and I took it, and on FanDuel it's a little bit out of what I would want to bet, but Mr. Rupi Hintz, yep, there we go, minus 125 for a top line forward player on Dallas. Jason Robertson, who he centers, is minus 225 for a point. Hintz has been very cold lately. Something tells me he's not completely healthy. And I think he's probably had some nagging stuff all season, just based off his numbers this year. But minus 125 for the top line center on the top power play on the top line of one of the best offenses of the league.
Certainly tempting.
It's very tempting.
Yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned Robertson shots. I'm on that tonight. Minus 135 on DraftKings here. He led the Stars forward group in ice time in game 1. He had 3 shots on goal on 7 attempts here. If Dallas desperately needs to win this game, and if they do, it's going to be kind of on that top line presence. I think Robertson again comes out shooting here. So I like that a lot. His numbers were much better heading into the postseason. Last year, we saw him kind of at that 3.5 mark. Now he's down to 2.5. I think Robertson can easily put up 3 in this game here, especially kind of when Dallas needs this one. So
I do too. And another one that I want to highlight too is Jamie Benn. His points minus 120, which looks pretty good too. But his shots, he had 7 attempts. Or he had
7 shots on goal.
On 9 attempts or something in game 1. He's their captain. He plays on that third line with Wyatt and Stankoven, and I talked about it in our previews. That line was great regular season, especially near the end. They were killer. But those are 2 kids. This is the playoffs. They're playing arguably the biggest, nastiest team in the West. I can see them getting pushed around a lot and Ben having to make up for it and be that horse on that line. So I can see him. I mean, you saw it happen. He had to throw pucks on net. He was the one trying to make the plays to get the goaltender to stop plays. He was kind of playing that Michael Backlund role where shoot it, get them to stop, get the face off, win the puck, then you got another opportunity. And I think he's going to be the type of guy who plays real conservative and smart here. Second line is another one that's a little loosey-goosey with Duchesne kind of centering that. He hasn't been quite the playoff performer. Is this the first time he's been in the playoffs outside of maybe 1 year with Nashville? Oh, I think he was he on the Ottawa team?
with Colorado now.
He had that 1 year with Colorado where they got like swept by Minnesota, and then they went to doo-doo again, and that's why they traded him. I would have to look it up, but again, he doesn't. He's not the. Like,
he's got plenty of games.
He does. Okay.
With Nashville, and Colorado as well. Yeah, he's got over 20 games.
Points in those. Yeah, 20 games. Eichel has more than him already.
That's true. I can't see it. I don't have the StatMuse Premium, but I just kind of pulled up. This is postseason game long. But in terms of the stats,
go for it. How many points does he have in those 20 games? Over under 6.5. I will take the under.
Yeah, I don't think he's been very productive.
Okay, I went over.
At least 20 right now that I'm seeing.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So okay. Maybe I'm painting the wrong picture here. Regardless, I think this is yes, Dallas has a deep forward core, but two of those lines I feel like can get pushed around fairly easily by Vegas. And Sagan's a great player. He had a nice first game. Marchment was the guy who I thought had the best game on that second line. And then I thought Wyatt and Stankoven really kind of got shut down. So again, I think that means this is a little bit of a top-heavy team in this series. So that hence minus 125 for a point really stands out. Heiskanen is the last guy that looks really good on this Dallas side. His shots attempts have been great. If you think that Dallas needs to get a power play point here, or you want to get a guy who's going to play big minutes for them because you think they're going to win 5-2, Heiskanen assist or Heiskanen shots are both plus money and look fantastic. And I think his point is like suspiciously minus like 130 or something. Let me see.
So I have Duchesne's postseason stats here. Duchesne has 10 goals, 15 assists in 33 games postseason.
That's way better than I thought, but
yeah. Any other looks in Vegas, Dallas tonight? I think we're kind of all in agreement of how we think this game's going to go, but should be one of the more entertaining games for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, next game up, we have LA at Edmonton. The Oilers dominated game one here, 7-4. McDavid puts up 5 assists. Hyman is the benefit and recipient of those assists here with 4 points with the hat trick. Bouchard looks great with 4 assists. Draisaitl, Kempe, other 2 multi-point players in here. Skinner looked really good in game one here. Obviously, a few of those 4 goals are kind of weird, a few deflections. But he didn't look bad. Talbot didn't look awful either. I mean, the Oilers just kind of dominated that first game overall. So
and I think we saw this in that Winnipeg game too. Like Hellbuck led in 6. It's kind of easy to think in game one that the Jets just completely rolled Colorado, but they kind of did too. At some point, if you're a goaltender in the playoffs and you have that type of lead or that type of dominance over the other team, I mean, you're probably going to let in a couple stinkers. So it's hard to gauge that.
Yeah. I'll start with you here, Franco, in this one. What's your outlook for game 2?
I mean, you know where I kind of stand on this Kings team. Right, we've all kind of been on that same boat. I would say, I don't think we're as high on them as the general hockey universe is in general. I feel like a lot of people are higher on them than we have been, and I think we're gonna kind of finally start to see the reality of that. That game one's just the start of it, so I think we're gonna see another big Edmonton performance here tonight. I locked in earlier today over team total over 3.5 for Edmonton. I love that play.
I like that a lot. There's
really like no value on the Edmonton side otherwise, as far as, taking, I guess you could take a puck line or something, but there's just been such a heavy overtime series history between these two. So I've been a little bit hesitant there. I grabbed the -1 in the first game that cashed, obviously, but that at least gives you a little protection if you have that available as opposed to taking a puck line. But yeah,
or in regulation.
Yeah, but if it goes to overtime, you can still you push.
Exactly. Yeah.
In reg would be a loss. So
just
something to consider when you're like as these get closer to the ends of the series, I feel like we're going to start seeing more overtime games eventually. So I'm gonna just say in general, like, be a little bit more hesitant on these either puck lines or reg lines. They always look good, but playoff hockey, there's always overtime. So I feel like there's a lot of value though on guys that, you can bet McDavid over 2 points or whatever. It's getting juiced everywhere at this point. I feel like
it's still bettable though, so take it while you can.
I know. I guess yeah. You're right.
You got one more game of it.
Yeah, one more game.
It's going to be minus 150.
It's funny. DK's sitting at minus 140 right now, but I think FanDuel's still bettable.
Minus 130 on FanDuel.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll take that. I feel like this is finally the time for this team.
Me too.
We've been kind of talking about it, and in the past we have kind of bashed this team for their depth, but I feel like they have it now, and I think they have such a nice path right now. I don't think the Kings are going to put up much of a fight in this series when all's said and done. I think we're probably returning back to Edmonton 3-1, and you're going to have the winner of Nashville and Vancouver, who, I mean, let's be honest here, the top of that bracket looks a lot scarier than this bottom of the bracket. So I feel like Edmonton knows this too. So anyway, with that being said, I'm looking at more of the other guys as well, though. Like Adam Henrique, point looks fantastic. It's plus money. He's playing on the line with Hyman and McDavid. He had 2 points in the first game. That looks like an awesome price from at least to me. I don't get why he's plus money. I know that historically that wing has been like a black hole with guys like Yamamoto and Puljujarvi over the years. But I mean, Adam Henrique's pretty damn talented. He's shown that he can produce over his career. He's a veteran type of guy, so he's not a defensive liability either. So he's going to continue playing on that line. I don't think that they'll take him off of it unless they're losing a game and they do the McDry, combo. But so yeah, I like him a lot. I'm also looking at Fogle, plus 135, and his shots also look great. Like I don't really understand why his shots are bettable after that game. He had 5 in the first game. He's hit 6 games in a row. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean it's because it's hockey. We're like the last line that the books like kind of comb over. So, and it's one of the few sports where there's these massive adjustments like that. Like you don't often see in basketball somebody all of a sudden getting prime minutes without like an injury in place. And hockey, it's if the line's clicking there, or if that guy has really shown up, he gets more time, he gets more opportunity. If it clicks with those line mates, he may stick. And generally when those guys get promotions like that, they go off and the books take like a whole week to adjust. So that's where you can really capitalize on it.
Fogle's attempts too in his last 4 games.
It's insane.
7, 14, 8, 17.
And I got a little worried about him game 1 because it was kind of clear that Edmonton had taken their foot off the pedal in those last couple games. So let the role players get bigger minutes, give them the opportunities, have them put on a show. And I didn't know he was going to just keep running with it. Yeah, I love his shots.
Yeah, I mean that line in general is it's a really good line too right now with the way it's playing. It's almost like as good as being on the McDavid wing. You have Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins on the other side of you. I know it's not as good, but like that is a hell of a spot to be in for any player. And the fact that he's being productive and shooting a ton, I love it. I think that's insane value.
Yeah, my only concern with Fogle would be if you have kind of one of those Draisaitl games where he just decides the time's now and he's going to just shoot 15 times. But he wasn't really that in game 1 at all. I mean, he had that one, but he was much more of kind of a playmaker role for sure in game 1. So yeah, Fogle at plus money at 2.5. It's hard to pass that up at all. What's the price on that?
Well, I'm looking on DraftKings. It was minus 110, but
yeah, I just saw it dropped. It was definitely plus money when it opened this morning. So people obviously are.
Yeah, I was sleeping on it, I guess.
Yeah.
The last thing.
McDavid's point too just shifted in the past hour too, over 1.5. It was at minus 130 when I posted my article, and now it's at 140. So
yeah,
a lot of shifts as of late. When everyone gets out of work, it starts getting on the apps.
It's how it works.
You gotta have those options, man.
East Coast.
One more guy I want to touch on in this game is Matt Roy. I love his blocks. I hit it the first game. It was 1.5. They bumped him up to 2.5. I still love it. He's that guy. And I think there's like certain guys that just love blocking shots for some reason. I don't really know why you would love to block shots. It seems like a terrible thing to step in front of a guy like Bouchard or whatever that's gonna fire off 100-mile-an-hour slap shot from the point. But I mean,
some people love doing Excel all day, some people love paint.
I guess, but yeah, I mean, there's certain guys, like, you're going to find value on some of these other guys that are popping for whatever reason, but like, you're going to also see that it's inconsistent, right? Like, one guy will have 6 shots one game and then he'll have one the next game. But these guys like McNabb and Roy, like, that's who they are. So like, if they do miss a game, you just got to come right back to them, because that's just what they do. They're on the top penalty kill for a reason. They just are going to lay out and block shots. So at 2.5 plus money, I'm going to take it for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Betsky, what are your looks for Edmonton, LA?
Yeah, I mean, we've already highlighted on quite a bit of them. I do like Hyman shots again. He was great at home all season. So, this is about to go into LA. So I'm going to take him while the price is really nice. Coming off a hat trick, sometimes players really kind of drop the ball after doing something like that. But 9 shots on 11 attempts or something, it's really hard to pass up at minus 105. And the fact that Henrique's up there makes me like it even more, to be honest. So you got guys who can get right up front of net. If Kings get frustrated and start taking penalties again too, I mean, this is where he can capitalize on it. So I'm not going to shy away from that. What I was saying with Hintz, even though arguably playing with a much better player with McDavid over Jason Robertson, but top line forwards at plus money to minus 120 is just like almost too much value to pass up. Another one, Draisaitl goal. I almost like it more than his shots, because he had 4 shot attempts, had 3 shots and 1 goal last game. That volume is not the prettiest volume in the world, but if there's one guy who can set up properly on the power play, so there's no way I'm going to. I would rather take his goal than his shots at this point. And then as far as the block shots component, I'll stick with the Edmonton side here and go Darnell Nurse, whose playoff numbers are ridiculous. And then, of course, these two teams have seen each other 3 times in the first round. So guess what? His numbers against the Kings are fantastic as well. Franco on the Roy block shot prop too. One thing that I've been looking for this season, I wish I did it before, is if these guys are upcoming UFAs, because these aren't guys that score. Some of these real defensive defensemen. So this is how you get paid, and he is an upcoming UFA. So
even better.
Yeah. Take a puck to the nuts, get a new contract.
Yeah. It's another $250,000 right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my lone play for this game is McDavid over 1.5 points here. The Oilers just need to dominate this series and get out and continue to kind of move through the bracket. They really can't allow LA to have even kind of a glimmer of hope, per se, to think they can win this series. He's been fantastic at home, hitting 9 of 10. Yeah, is insane too. And the whole thing, I don't know if you guys obviously watched game 1, but the whole thing, they're like, LA is going to get back to their 1-3-1 trap, neutral zone trap in game 2. If there's one player who can beat a 1-3-1 neutral zone trap, it's McDavid. he can skate through pretty much anyone, especially those 3 forwards for LA. He has great history against them. He's proven it. So I'm going to keep riding kind of the cash cow here and just take his over 1.5 points. And at 130, which I got it at, I think it's a fantastic price because you're right. It's only going to go up if he continues to cash. So.
And I don't even necessarily want to take it on the road. So hopefully it goes up, he misses, and then goes right back down.
Game 5, we'll see him again. Yeah, if it even takes that long.
If it even takes that long, yep.
Yeah. I think just in general, guys, there's just a ton of value on Edmonton. I think, and when they go back to LA, I think we're going to see even more of it. So I'm just gonna keep coming to it. So I love it. I don't think the Kings are going to be very happy in a few more days. So we'll see what happens. So
I think the best possibility is they sneak out one at home. LA does, and it's 3-1 back to Edmonton. We can just hammer again for Game 5 and kind of start this all over again in the second round.
Yep.
All right. Any other thoughts here?
No, but these 3 in the Florida Tampa game are my favorite series. I mean, the Winnipeg Colorado one's pretty damn close. Florida
Tampa Bay last night was chef's kiss. Just chef's kiss. It was so good. I couldn't stop watching it. It was like everything you could hope for.
The reverse cowgirl Bob Bosky save.
My God. And then even Vasilevsky too made a few just incredible saves as well. It just went back and forth. It felt like for that second half of the second. It's just like
I couldn't believe how many breakaways were given up in that third period or like late in that game.
Odd man rushes, just crazy.
It's like, what the hell is going on, guys? I know your goaltenders are great back there, but like your guys are hanging them out to dry. It was crazy, and they were up to the task every single time. That was fun as hell to watch, both of them going at it. It was awesome.
Yep.
All right, before we sign off here, let's cook up a parlay here for the people. I don't know, Franco Betsky, did you have one play that you specifically really liked for tonight?
I like that Jason Robertson shots for a parlay piece.
Yeah,
it's right in that value range. You're getting better value for it than you should, but it feels like his current stats and how he's performed in the playoffs and the game script, the potential game script, feed right into this, and it probably should be more like -160. So I really want to take advantage of that.
Yep. Franco, did you have one that you were high on?
Let's do the McDavid 2 points. I think that feels pretty good.
Fair enough.
It's hard to pass
easy.
up.
Yeah.
And then in terms of Boston, Toronto, I guess, what are you looking at? Matthews over 4.5?
I could. I don't mind not, just in case Nylander comes back. But I think that's a super solid play regardless. Another one I like a lot is Morgan Riley shots.
Let's see.
Morgan Riley over 1.5 here. Okay, let me pull it up.
But I'm happy to do Matthews too.
Marchand Point looks decent.
Marchand Point, yeah. I think
shots.
I'd prefer either of those over Matthews shots, even though I do like, I mean, he's been a force. I just get scared that all of a sudden we hear Nylander's in and they like switch up the lines.
You think he's going to play tonight, though? I haven't heard any indication.
I know.
He is.
I don't know.
I just looked right now. There's nothing real.
New.
Just a bunch of fake accounts saying he's not playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you really think he's playing tonight?
I don't think there's a chance. I think you're right. They take the 2 games off, 2 nights off, and then they plays the next game, game 4. Yeah.
So we want to do is Matthews the answer then? It's tough. I don't love this game in general. Like I feel like
I don't either. But I mean, can we look somewhere else then? It's gonna have to be the same game parlay and one of them. Do you want to go back to Edmonton? I feel like we had more props in Edmonton than specifically Boston, Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, we could do Fogle shots. We could do Kempe shots. Looks good.
Matthews puts us at +4 10.
That's
and
pretty
it
good.
just so happens to be April 10th at 4:10 Pacific as we make this. None of those other two pieces are true, but
yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. I don't know. That value is not too bad. I mean, that's like 3 superstars.
I mean,
it's chalky as hell, but it's kind of nice. We got a comment in the chat from our boy Trevor. Awesome capper. Pasta 3.5. We talked about it earlier. I feel like it's a Beatty line, but
he could sail over it though.
Oh,
you could
yeah,
see that
easy.
type of game. I'm more of the mind of thinking like, let me see it first with a player that hasn't really been hitting than to take that bait. At least that's just how I bet.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. Yeah. So what did you get 410 on at on DK right now? It's plus 384.
That ESPN bet.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there's value there. DK's got it at 384. Placed on ESPN bet at 410.
410, not bad.
You get to root for something in each game.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it.
All right. That about wraps it up. Then I will post that parlay as well. Before we end, do you guys want to shout out your socials one last time here?
Sure. I'm Gretzky Betsky at Gretzky Betskis at Twitter.
And I'm Franco the Banker at Franco the Banker on Twitter.
As always, you can find me on Twitter at Gator Betting and on Instagram at Gator Sports Betting. Be sure to check out our podcast on Twitter as well at Expected Bets 4. We appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys Friday for a special live stream as well.